These are human factors.
But I mean, let's also look at what INEC told them. Yes. In fairness, if INEC gave them a register 2 weeks before the election, I mean, it was an electronic manual form too. They said they went out and they printed the 1.7 million names, sent it to their different constituencies or different areas, and they go back to them that, well, there are some problems, but it's okay. I mean, we can work with this. And then 2 days to the election, INEC comes to say, well, nothing really has changed. It's just the age that it was seen that nobody noticed here. We've had to work on the ages of the people who were registered. Don't you think that they should have taken INEC at their word?
Yes, which they did.
Which they did, but it was seen that that itself on their part was a major mistake.
You mean on the part of INEC?
On the part of the political parties. Because now we all seem to be blaming them for trusting that INEC only, touch the ages. I mean, we haven't seen the registers, but that was what INEC told them, and from what they say, INEC had a different register even on that particular day as well.
Yes, I think this point has been made known by the media aide to the INEC chairman. I think I had him about 4 days or 3 days ago. And why not holding brief for INEC? I still believe that the register in question, if they are taking their time to even raise objection, some of these things would have been resolved. Because there's provision in the electoral act where you can raise objection and your objection looked into.
Well, my problem, what I'm saying is, they did not have any issues with the register that was given to them 2 weeks before the elections.
Yes.
The register that was given to them 2 days before the election, they claimed that they had no time to go through it.
Absolutely.
And that they just trusted that INEC only touched the ages as it said it was going to do that. Do we now blame them for not taking the time to go through it again? Do we blame them for trusting INEC?
I wouldn't say we should blame them for trusting INEC, but at the same time, that did not remove the responsibility of cross-checking away from the political party.
How feasible do you think that is, though? I mean, if you have 48 hours to go through 1.7 million names, how feasible is that?
I think it's very feasible. Because you are the main, you're going to be the main beneficiary of the entire process. Look, some of these people, they can send messages within their wards within 6 hours. How do they get result? Why? How do they collect the results from their various sources, even before INEC gets the final result?
So you just think that
you have the capacity.
You think it was a matter of priority for them?
Absolutely. I'll say that. Absolutely.
But again, I'm trying to look at, that same register, because if we try to narrow it down and you say, well, I'm lucky you finally said, well, it's important, because when we say, well, it went well and fine, but for the register, but again, you've concluded by saying it's important, because some say that is how rigging or disenfranchisement starts. And for a candidate who was actually in that particular election not getting to vote, well, that was actually huge, big mistake on the part of INEC. How can we get it right when it comes to voter register? Initially, we had the manual register, and we thought we were metamorphosing into the electronic register, and that was what we made to believe is what we have now. For the fact that the parties were goofed for not going through that particular CD to see if it was even a register that was given to them or not is a different one. But how come INEC did not ensure that the register was the correct register used for that particular election?
INEC has not said, to the best of my knowledge, that they didn't use the correct register.
No, I'm using the version of the comments from those who went for that particular election. The parties, some of them said, well, what they were given, what they were shown before that particular election was quite different from what they saw on election day.
You and I had INEC saying that, and as a matter of fact, as confirmed by the Electoral Act, updating is a continuous thing of voters register. And you also, well, let me answer your question first, because you ask, how do we make our voter register? I will not say that it's going to be different from what I think the present chairman is doing, applying technology. Our problem has been this manual thing and all that. Applying technology in what sense now? He has, I think I heard or overheard him say, electronic voters register where you have all your biometrics and all that. I think that would be put a lot of paid to the irregularity or the abnormality we may be seeing now with the voter register. So that answers that question. Then, as it applies to this, the Anambra election now, is that you see the register that was used for this particular election, we understand by INEC, they said they tried to clean it up. Well, and as a matter of fact, Mark asked that question, what do you mean by clean up? So I heard the man say, where there are discrepancies in terms of double registration, that you will not have your name in the final one. That means that program is programmed to delete or leave you at the last.
You know why I asked that question?
Yes.
I was thinking that because till now, even though investigations are still on, we still haven't heard the exact crime of the electoral officer that is in police custody. Do you think, because now that he's already saying that, well, I didn't work alone, I have so many others who worked with me, don't you think that he has some people who also took out some names from that particular register before the election?
That is why investigative journalism comes in here. Because I share the view with you that we should possibly be hearing more about the man that they have even acknowledged themselves that he botched the process. I believe we should hear more.
Well, what we've heard, I mean, if we play back the tape, there was a forum in London where INEC Chairman was represented by his special advisor, and he said that they do believe in INEC, that man wasn't working alone. And if truly INEC itself believes that man wasn't working alone, the question is, how many others was he working with, and are they spread over a local government, or is it just Idemili North that has been compromised?
Well, that will have to be the job of the investigating officers, and that's why I said this is where investigative journalism.
Does it get you worried, especially since you believe that the election shouldn't be cancelled and we should just go ahead with the supplementary polls?
Quite honestly, I really don't think. What are you going to rest, or what are people resting this issue of cancellation? I'm not persuaded at all, whether in law, even by perception. I'm not.
Well, in closing, in closing, I wanted us to get from you, because you have some form of experience in this, the kind of confidence people have in the electoral in the tribunals. Do you think some of these people are likely to get justice?
Definitely. And if others, look, I would always like to refer you back to things that have happened before. The election of what's her name, Professor Dora Akoyele, and Chris Ngige in the same Anambra, you know that election was very close to call. At the end of the day, again, let me tell you again, and that buttress my point why I sympathize with INEC. All the elections that have been organized by INEC in the last 2 years, or particularly with this Professor Jega's election, none has been validated by the court. That tells you something, unlike what we used to have.
Tells us what?
That tells you that the election has been more credible. That tells you that the election has been substantial compliance with the rules.
So in other words,
that should even give them confidence to answer your question. That should give them confidence to approach the court. What I expect the political parties to be doing, rather than junketing and doing publicity, is to begin to gather their facts, because election matter is decided by court on the preponderance of evidence.
Well, anyway, I think that's a place for us to leave it today and for the week. Many thanks, Robert Obhafuoso. He's a lawyer and also conducted the elections in Edo State in 2007. Well, Sunrise Daily takes a moment, and it will be time for us to look at your views and comments as well as mails.